Well guys, it's been about 3 weeks since I installed the Stage 6 system and my Gladiator. Just a quick note, before I did the install, I busted my lip open with a stupid printer drawer, long story, but that's why I had a scab on my lip during the install. Also, I got braces, which sucks, but I went ahead and put closed caption on the video as well during the installation so you could understand what I was trying to say. And I've had a chance to go through and listen to a lot of different music and really set everything up nicely and put together my thoughts about the install. So stay tuned after the installation so that you can hear my final thoughts. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Brian Lorenz from the Beehive, and today I'm super excited to share with you the installation process of the incredible MB Quart Stage 6 system in my Jeep Gladiator Scout. If you're a fan of premium audio quality and want to take your off-road adventures to the next level, then this video is for you. The Stage 6 is a complete system with 8 speakers, 3 amplifiers, and 1200 watts to replace your underpowered OEM system. To prepare for the installation, MB Quart has their own install video, which I watched many times, and they also have detailed instructions for each step of the installation, which I printed out. I've included a link to the video and the instructions in the description below. And like I said, I printed off the instructions to use as a checklist so I can go step by step. The instructions are very detailed, and if you follow along, you'll have no trouble installing them yourself in your Wrangler or Gladiator. There are 3 manuals you're going to want to download for this install. The Stage 6 install manual, which are detailed instructions for installing the speakers. The wiring and amplifier install guide, which gives you instructions on the supplied wiring harness. And you may want to remove the soundbar when installing the 6x9s. If you do, you'll need the instructions to remove the soundbar from the vehicle. I've got links to everything below. The manuals are very detailed, and they mostly follow the video, but there are some differences. Originally, I was going to do a straight install video. But this system includes the subs, the amps, all of the speakers, and it's pretty complex. So instead, I'm going to do an install / my approach to tackling the whole system. To prepare for the install, I removed the doors, the 2 front seats, and the freedom panels. I also got everything out of the vehicle that was loose or in my way. Next, I went ahead and installed sound deadening material because I had not done that before, and if I'm going to install this kind of system, I want it to sound its best as it can, and the sound deadening material will help lower the road noise and keep the rattling noise down as well. I also removed the kick panels from the sides, unclipped most of the trim panels. To try to stay organized, I went ahead and got one of these little plastic bins, and I made a little spreadsheet with what screws are coming out at which step of the process. I'm going to number the bins, and as I go along, put them in there. That way at the end, I don't end up with a handful of screws going, where did this go? It'll help keep me on track and make sure I do things step by step. So I numbered the bins to correspond with which steps I'm going to be removing hardware, and I'll put the hardware in each corresponding bin. That way when I go to do the install, I'll reverse the process. Should make it nice and simple. The tools needed for this installation are a non-marring panel tool of some kind, a Phillips head screwdriver, 8, 10, and 13 millimeter socket set with a ratchet, and a T25 Torx bit, which you can find in your Jeep toolkit. All right, let's check out what comes in the box. Accessories, it looks like. Here's our 2 front upper dash speakers. We've got 1 amplifier, filler box, 2nd amplifier, the Pack Audio Amp Pro, which I'm excited to see if there is anything that we can adjust with this. These 6x9s for the upper soundbar, a big box, J1, not sure what that is, but let's open it up and see what it is. Ah, these are our speaker pods. I'm going to save all these boxes as well. In fact, I'll save that first box so that I can put everything back inside. I'm going to save the original speakers in case I ever sell the Jeep and they want to take them out or whatever. I can put everything back in. This should be our accessory package. So let's check out what comes with that also. The wiring harness kit. There's our bracket for the back seat. Let's take a look at the packet, the wiring harnesses that have come with it. We have RCA cables that are labeled completely, which is good. We're going from the pack audio to the amplifiers. We have extra zip ties. You might want to pick up some more, some smaller ones as well. I've got a ton myself that we'll be using. All right, this is going to be our amplifier turn-on wire, power wire. Amplifier 70 amp fuse. I was actually surprised they don't supply 2 of those. It'd be nice to have an extra one just in case. I'll probably try to order one on Amazon. All right, let's see these. This is what I was curious about because we're going to have to see about running the speaker wires through the dash. So this is our power wire, power and ground wire for our amplifiers. And I was curious because in a lot of the videos that I've seen, they didn't really show what exactly how this is going to be ran, how it works. I'm just going to go ahead and undo it now. The ground wire is going to connect right inside the Jeep, very close to the center console, and we're going to run the power wire underneath. And they've done a really nice job of running this all with Tessa tape as well, very well protected. The Tessa's good stuff. It's high heat resistant, chemical resistant also, and it runs really nicely, so you don't have to worry about crimping wires and all that. These are going to go to all 3 amplifiers. Boom, just super easy. We've got one power wire here that's going to connect to the amp turn on, so everything's done. It's going to be very super simple to connect the amplifiers. This is going to be our speaker wire for our sound bar. This is our front right, front left. So this is obviously going to go for the kick panel for the 6.5 inch speakers, but we should also have a wire for our, oh nice, some speakers, some stickers. Trim those in the dash. So these came with adapters. I'm trying to figure out, I know it's a 2-way system, so I'm trying to figure out, these are going to connect, this is going to connect to the amplifiers. These are going to connect to my 6-inch speakers, 6.5 inch speakers. Let's take a look at these, try to figure this out. So these are going to run up from your speaker pods. This is going to be the wire that we need to run through the dash. And this will plug into the back of the speakers. And then this will run up to our 3.5 inch speakers in the dash and power them. I was wondering where this wire was, so now we know. As I see it, I get an idea of what we're going to do, how we're going to follow the install. All right, so here's our sub packing material. They have a knob that you can turn the bass up. It also comes with one for the pack audio. We're just going to install the one from pack audio. This would be, if you just installed the subwoofer, I think this would be more useful if you didn't have the pack audio system, but you only need to install one. Here's our subwoofer amplifier, and this is a mono amp power system for it, little adapters and everything else. We probably won't need this per se. We'll see in a minute here. I believe it's going to plug right into the other harness that we have, so we'll set that aside also. Yes, it is. Now, one thing that's a little frustrating, but it is what it is. We're going to have to remove the screws, remove the speakers to mount this in our Gladiator or Wrangler, whichever you have, because the way it bolts in is from underneath. I may actually put some sound deadening material on the speaker itself, or not the speaker, but on the enclosure, just to make sure it doesn't rattle or anything. And man, I gotta tell you, it's beautiful. These subs look amazing. And this is a sealed enclosure, the whole box, which is another reason why I bought this. I don't like ported subwoofers. I think they suck, because when you have a ported subwoofer, it's just the box is trying to resonate at that frequency. The resonation is like, and it sucks. It sounds terrible. This is gonna give it a nice tight bass, kind of a jazzy bass, a punchy bass. When you hear that kick drum, when you hear the bass slap, it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait. Now that we see how this comes together, I'm just gonna set this in the Jeep for right now, and we're gonna start putting the amplifiers on there together. We'll see how that goes. All right, so I've got the instructions out here. I just wanted to see the layout for the amps. So this is going to be our sub amp, then we're going to have the rears and the fronts. So when I put together the amp rack, I realized really quickly that a slight issue, only 2 of the 4 screws were going to fit in each one of the amps, either 2 in the top or 2 in the bottom, but all 4 would not go. Now you could also do 1 at the top and 1 at the bottom across from each other. What I chose to do was put the 2 screws in the top, and then I took a self-tapper and self-tapped the bottom of the amp to the amp rack. And that worked just fine. I contacted MB Quart and they said, yeah, you know, there was a slight issue with some of the early production of the rack. And so some people out there ended up getting a rack that the holes were off by like 1 millimeter. Not a big deal. 2 screws will hold it in just fine. Usually what they do is 1 in the top, 1 in the bottom across from each other, and that'd be just great. Or you can choose to do what I did, or you could take a drill and drill out screw holes in the amps. Whatever you choose to do, but either way it'll be just fine. All right, so totally not a must, but I am a little bit extra. And what I've done is I've taken the speaker pods open. Inside you can see the crossover, and I've added a little sound dampening material to it. I'm also going to take a little bit of polyfill and put that inside as well. You don't want to go crazy because you don't want it to get too hot, and there's no reason for that. But this will help with the sound also, make it a little bit nicer, and hopefully the sound deadening material will keep the speaker pod from resonating too much or vibrating inside the panel. So just a little extra you don't have to do, but you certainly can. Hopefully it'll help with the sound as well. If you like the content of this channel, please take a moment to like and subscribe. It's greatly appreciated. Don't forget to hit the notification button so you'll know every time we release a new video. We cover all kinds of great Jeep stuff, RV stuff, family stuff, and we really love bringing it to you. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and thanks so much for watching our channel. Okay guys, so the one thing you're going to want to make sure you do throughout the entire process is stay organized. Print off the instructions from MB Quart, have them with you at all times, and go step by step checking off each one. Now, I've been told that sometimes I do these videos and don't show enough of the install, but there were over 4 hours of video that I did, and I'm not going to go through showing you all of that. So I'm going through here quickly. We get up to point 3. Step 3 is where we actually have to pop off the environmental controls, and that's usually the scary part because most people haven't done it. It's not very difficult though, just follow along. Step 3, we're going to unclip and remove the climate control panel. This is where you definitely want to have the non-marring tool. Right here. Get it right behind there. Just pop it and it will. It's terrible the first time you do that, but once you get used to it, it's not so bad. I'm going to go ahead and unclip it now. And then we have our start button here also. Unclip. Now we can take the whole panel right out. See how easy that is? In the manual, they suggest that we go on and install the cabling and wiring, but I decided I was going to keep going. I wanted to get everything dismantled before I ran the wiring. So you're going to remove the 2 screws below the radio and then pop off the faceplate around the radio itself. That comes out pretty easy. Once you've got that off, then you're going to remove the 1 screw that is above the radio, and that will allow you to remove the dash visor. There are also 2 screws that hold in the radio. You're going to remove those. Make sure you put everything back in your little organizer tray like I did. It really helps. Now, once you have the radio removed, pay very close attention to where all of the wires are connected. They are color-coded, but sometimes they don't make sense. The antenna for the satellite radio is a light blue color, kind of a teal color. Ask me how I know. I forgot to plug it back in. But once you have the radio out, then you can go ahead and remove that visor, and it actually comes out pretty easy. You're going to pull it towards you. Just get your fingers behind it and give it a little pop. Just like that. You can tell it took a little bit. You want to do it with as much straight force as you can, and make sure you don't mess anything up. Next, we're going to unscrew the 4 Phillips screws at the top of the dash, just above the instrument cluster. You can remove the instrument cluster as well. Also, there are a couple of screws just below the dash that you're going to take care of. And that'll bring us over to the driver's side, where we're going to remove a small panel on the side, and there are 5 screws behind it. You'll find 4 of them are super easy to remove, and there's one in particular that's a pain in the neck. And there's a couple special tools you can use to get that out pretty easily. I used a special snap-on one that you'll see in the next clip here. Pull it back like that. You get your tool right up in there. Here, it'll just pop right back up. So, and it'll pop right down. Now we're going to take out these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws. You can see this one in the corner is going to be a little bit of a bear. We'll get. I feel like you'll strip them out. It makes it easy to get in here. Just a really cool screwdriver. Loose. Once it's loose, it'll be good. Quick work of it. Snap-on tool and get it wherever. Next, you're going to remove the remaining screws holding in the lower kick panel and some of the other components just below the steering wheel. Again, follow along with the instructions closely and you won't have any issues at all. I'm going to put a link in the description to the original video made by MB Quart, and I suggest watch it several times as well. You can always pull it up on your phone also while you're doing this, just to make sure that you're in the right spot. As long as you do that, you won't have any issues whatsoever. Okay, so now we're making some real progress. We should be ready to pull that instrument panel out, as well as the driver's side kick panel. We're going to be removing the other screws and hardware that hold the speaker pods in, and you'll find when you remove the kick panel, you're going to have to unplug the light switch, and if you have a 110 volt outlet in the back, you're going to have to undo that as well. I find it's easiest to push the switch for the 110 volt outlet out the front and then unhook it and then pull the cable back through the kick panel. Also, when you go to remove the top screw holding in the speaker pod, I found that I had an antenna with a wire sitting right in front of the screw. It's a pink antenna. You just unplug the antenna, it'll get the wire out of the way, and then you'll be able to unscrew the pod. Once you have all of that and you're ready to remove the pod, I've found that they have you remove the hardware from the steel bracket on the bottom for one simple reason. You have to move the steel bracket as well. You're going to do that by pulling it outward and down slightly. It'll drop down about an inch. If you don't do that, you're not going to get the speaker pod out. So you drop it down and the speaker pod will come right out. Try to be a little bit more graceful than I was. Oh, I see the bracket is loose on the bottom because of what we did. And like that, you can get it out. Okay, kind of. Take a little bit of manhandling. So we got it. Okay. Speaker wire is just that little clip right there, and then it comes out. Here's our unit. We're going to pull this off, and we're going to save this This would be a great time if you have a Taser Mini like I do. They make extension cables for this from Z Automotive. I reached out to Z Automotive and asked them to send me a couple so I could show that in the install video. I want to put them in so I don't have to worry about it later. It'll save me from breaking my fingers. They said no. Yeah, they look like 7 millimeters. So we'll get those off as well. This is why we're replacing this, because look at this speaker. It's tiny. I set the speaker pod aside and moved over to the passenger side. You're going to have to remove the 4 screws on top of the instrument panel, then pop the panel on the right side of the door right there with the same 5 screws that you had on the other side. Again, keep all of your screws organized step by step in a little bin like that. It's going to save you a lot of headache as you go through the process. You remove the grab handle as well. Unscrew the screws behind there that hold in the airbag and remove the glove box. Once you have all that out of the way, getting the speaker pod out on this side is much easier. It'll come right out, simply unplug it. Then what I did was I actually opened up the speakers and put in a little polyfill and also some sound deadening material so they wouldn't rattle behind the dash. I think it's really helpful. And it sounds great now with the finished product, so I'm glad I did that. Okay, at this point, got everything out. We're getting the speaker pods ready to go back in. I'm gonna go take lunch, but I'm gonna clean up a little bit first, make sure I got all my tools together, everything out of the way, everything organized. I'm gonna remove the front speakers next, the dash speakers, so I can run the wires up and then run my wire across. Then I'll start putting all this back together. But I also need to look at the manual and make sure that I get this out, get my pack audio stuff in. So that's really where I'm going to go next. I'll get this out, I'll start looking at the wire manual, get all that run, that way I can start putting everything back together and start working on the subs, the 6x9s, and the amps. The next step was finally removing the dash speakers. You would think this would be the first thing that you do, but the instructions have it like step 35 or 36, and it makes sense because you don't really need to remove them until you're ready to run the wire and install the new speakers in the dash as well. So I got those out of the way. Then I took a look at the pack audio to figure out where I was going to place it. I removed the window controls so that I could then get ready to run my speaker wire across the dash. Okay, so trying to show the routing of the wiring here. What I did for the pack audio wire as well as the speaker wire is I'm running it from the back forward like this, bringing it forward and then running it across the back of the unit here, back of the climate controls and stuff, behind here, and then down the other side. This should be pretty easy. I've already got the pack audio in place over here. The dip switches look like the defaults should be just fine. Got everything up. We'll get that down there. Make sure it's all out of the way and everything, but I've got the pack audio right here. The way I ran the cable was down the side over there. I hope you can see it. But basically down the side. Yeah, down behind there. Alright, guys, so I'm about ready to put the pods back in. This one's going to go on this side. I'm going to run this wire up here. But I want to make sure I've got everything zip tied in place also. All my other cables and wires that ran across out of the way. So I've got some extra small zip ties. I'm going to do that also first. Set this out of the way. This is my speaker wire. Going to go to the back of the speaker. This is my knob, my volume knob going to my pack audio. So I'm going to run this down here. Okay, this is where things are really nice because we're starting to put things back together. We're going to run the cable from the back of the speaker pod up to our dash speaker. We're going to get the speaker pod in, and one thing to note, is make sure you keep the steel bar at the bottom that's loosened up down. Then you can get the speaker pod up in there and move the steel bracket back into place and start screwing it in. You'll install the 3 screws that hold the speaker pod into place as well, and simply start working backwards. Again, if you have your little bin with all your parts and they're numbered, you just work backwards and you'll know exactly what goes where based off the steps, and you'll have all your hardware right there. Makes it super easy. Once you get up to the top part where you have that top screw for the speaker pod, if you have that same antenna, don't forget to plug it back in. Ask me how I know. And then we move over to the other side to install the passenger side pod and start putting it back together as well. So while you've got this all torn apart, now is a good time to replace your factory air filter, cabin air filter. I got a K&N, I'm going to throw that in as well. Keep the air nice and cool. The K&N filter is much nicer than the OEM filter that you usually get, and it goes in really easy because it's in 2 pieces. Going right along, once you have your speaker pod in, you're going to run your wire for your dash speaker up as well. Run it right up behind there. Then you can start putting your screws back in. Again, you're just going to work backwards, installing the hardware as you went along. Once you get to the top and you've got your instrument panel 4 screws across the top, jump back across onto the other side and put your instrument panel in there. You can really start buttoning things up. Now, I also added some foam, some closed cell foam behind the speaker pods to keep them from rattling a little bit more, and near the pack audio as well, just to keep it from bouncing around behind the dash. I think that was really helpful. Once you've got all this stuff back together, then we can start looking at running the RCA cables and the power cable for the amps. We are getting close. Next, I ran the kick panel speaker wire along the passenger side railing on the floor back to the amps. Then I worked on getting the pack audio installed there behind the glove box. Again, I put in some closed cell foam to keep it from rattling. And then I took the RCA cable and the remote wire and wrapped it completely in Tessa tape to keep it from vibrating or rubbing against anything. I ran it underneath the center console back to under the passenger seat, where I'm going to tie in the power and ground. So here's a shot of what the pack audio looked like installed finally with the closed cell foam behind it. I didn't have to secure it any other way than just putting it in there. It fit really nicely, and I'm confident it's not going to bounce around. I put the rest of the dash together because there's nothing else I need to do there except maybe place the pack audio bass control knob, and that's going to be on the other side. Then I focused on running the RCA with the remote turn-on wire. I ran it along the passenger side under the center console to under the seat where the amp rack is installed. Let's take a look at how that got connected with the power for the amp racks themselves. Okay, so now we're going to run our power wire. The ground wire is going to connect right here. Our power wire is going to go underneath the flooring, and it will connect to our battery up front. We're going to have to run it through that grommet, which I was not a big fan of at first, to be honest with you. But now I don't think it's that big of a deal because even though it's a drain, no, we're never going to drain stuff from there. The power cable's pretty rapid, pretty good. I'm going to run this through here. So, run it through. And also going to protect this, and then I'll probably run this through the frame of the vehicle as well. Just put a slit in it. Push it on through. This is going through the floor. Using my speaker wires, which will be connected to the amps. There's my ground wire, which I'm going to put underneath this. It's going to run right up here and be connected. Remote turn on amps, all that stuff's going to be over here. And the wire is underneath the chassis. I'll get down there in a minute and film that. I'm going to put some extra protection on it and run it up through the frame so that it doesn't get damaged. Get a 10 millimeter. everything pulled out. We're ready to do the 6x9s. But, wait, there's more. We're gonna make this an insane build. I don't even know how to say it because I'm so excited. So instead of putting back the 6x9s, I got the MBQJ-48H, which is, I'm gonna open it right now, here's our unboxing. I'm gonna put the 6x9s together, but not in this video. I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna put them in Bianca's Jeep. Oh yes, 4 8-inch speakers with black or silver grills. Yeah, what's better than 2 6x9s? 4 8-inch speakers that are dual, 2 4 8-inch speakers that are two-way. Now the installation of this will be the same. Oh, look at this beast. Look at this beast. Yeah, it's going to be done. Alright, this one has a wiring harness here that's going to run down and connect to it, so we'll run that down. That'll run right into our amp on the side. Otherwise, the installation is exactly the same. So we're going to get to work popping this puppy up. It's going to be stupid loud. I love it. So I am going to use the 6x9s for sure. I went ahead and installed those in the original soundbar, and I'm going to put those in Bianca's Jeep and place the Alpine speakers that she has. But this MBQJ-48H soundbar has 4 8-inch compression horn speakers in the enclosure, and it's designed to plug right into the same amplifier that the 6x9s would have used anyways. So I get the benefit of even more mid-bass, and Bianca gets the 6x9s as well. If you're going to install this or the 6x9s, either way, the instructions say that you can cut it out while it's mounted. Don't do that. Remove the soundbar. A little more work saves you a lot of work. First, you'll remove the freedom panels, and then you'll take the 2 trim pieces from the driver and passenger side in front of the soundbar. You'll then remove the 2 trim pieces from the rear of the cab, right behind the soundbar. Each one of those is going to have 4 screws that hold it in, and then you remove, of course, the grab handles as well. Then you can drop down the little side trim. You'll remove the interior light, and then you can undo 4 10mm bolts that hold it in, and it'll come right out. It's actually pretty easy. Installing it is exactly the opposite, and there are other videos out there that show you how to trim the inside of the soundbar to get the 6x9s in there. With the soundbar installed, the next step is to connect the speaker wires, those running from the front and the kick panel and dash speakers, as well as the soundbar speaker wires coming down the B panel. And lastly, your subwoofer wires, which I ran those right along as well. We're ready to go. I made sure that everything was in place. The RCA cables got connected up properly. I had my power and my ground wires nice and out of the way. And then I went ahead and screwed down the soundbar itself. You have to remove the 2 speakers to do that, but it's not a big deal. And while I did that, I also added a little bit of sound deadening and some more polyfill into there as well. We're getting close to the end of the line here. This is our cable that's going underneath. It's wrapped in Tessa tape already. I'm going to put on some spiral wrap as well, and then at a couple points Tessa tape around it just to make sure the spiral wrap doesn't come off. I'm going to run this through the frame up to the battery because I don't want it, 2 reasons. Number 1, heat. Number 2, just the elements. I don't want it to be exposed as just being duct tape or zip tie it up there or whatever, however you would do it. Well, I'm ready to try this out. Right here, which is great. It is run down there. Let me get underneath here and show you how it's going exactly. So it starts right there, goes into the chassis. There's a little bit of slack. It comes up the chassis, and it comes out here. So I got quite a bit of slack, actually. Be able to pull that up or pull some through the chassis, whichever. But you can see it comes out. I don't know why I'm on this side, but it comes out right there, goes up the side, There is plenty of room up there. There was nothing. Got everything wired. But I'm willing to give it a shot. Here we go. Let's see. All right. Now. Here comes CarPlay. With my music. Some James Bay. I have to block this out. Standing right in front of you. Okay, the moment of truth. I pressed the button, started everything up, the amps fired up right away. I'm not going to sit here and show you videos of me making goofy faces while I play a bunch of different kind of music, because you can imagine I had all kinds of things going through my head. I will tell you, the first time you fire it up, don't be surprised if it doesn't sound exactly the way you want. You still have to go in and set the amps up, set the gain up on them properly. All the instructions are right there in the MB Quart manuals. Make sure you do that. You want to set the gains properly, set your bass properly. Make sure you set everything flat in your EQ in the head unit, and then set your gains as well. Now, I did mine just by listening to the amps and making sure that they never distorted or anything else like that. There are a lot of people that'll disagree and say you have to use an oscilloscope and all this, whatever. This system is so loud with it turned down that you won't have to do that. So I went ahead and put everything back in, got the seats back in, got the doors back on, got the trim all back in place, and then I went ahead and drove around and listened to the system. And I gotta tell you, it is amazing. Stay tuned. Now I'm going to follow up a little bit after the install and let you know what my final thoughts are. So coming up, guys, you can see, the kick panels look normal. The system up here looks normal. You don't see a difference in the system at all until you come back here. And of course, our storage space, bam. So much better, so much better, so much louder, so much more bass, tight bass too. It's not that resonating crap. The system looks good. I'm going to lift up the other speaker and then I'll show you also. I'm going to lift up the other seat so you can see the other speaker. Like I said, I don't miss my storage space under there at all because it was practically nothing. So the only way that you can really tell is if you look up. And oh yes, these speakers are amazing. That's the MBQJ-48H. That's the mid bass. Most people truthfully don't notice it. Again, because it's the entire soundbar, that whole thing can come out easily and be put back with the original soundbar. And over here, right here is where I've run my knob to, but I never use it, like I said. And these wires, these are those extension wires. I purposely left these out so you can see what they are. If I unplug the Taser Mini, then the wires that would go up top would plug right into this, and then I just put them up underneath there and I'm good to go. And yeah, the system looks great. It's amazing. It sounds good. Really happy. Alright guys, it's been about 3 weeks since I did the install. I can tell you it took me a lot longer to put the video together than it did to do the installation. The installation looks complicated, and it is, but there's a lot of rewards with it as well. The sound is incredible. It was worth every penny to put this thing in. And now when I drive, sometimes I take the Jeep more often than I used to just because I want to hear the stereo and I want to play some music. Just before I did the install, I got in a fight with the stupid printer at the office, and a piece of metal came out and hit me in the lip, and that is why I had that scab on my lip during the video. I think I'm gonna have a scar permanently now. Tell everybody I got it in a bar fight. Also, I got braces now, so I hope you can understand everything I said with the lisp Incredible system though, worth every penny. MB Quart did a great job of really putting together concise instructions. The video that they did was fantastic. I watched it over and over again, and I strongly encourage you to do the same thing if you're going to put it in. It was a fun project. It was a great project to put this stuff in, and now my Jeep is that much better for it. Is it going to increase the resale value of my Jeep? Probably not. Would I take the system out and install it somewhere else if I sold the Jeep? Absolutely. It's an amazing system, and if I sold the Jeep, nobody else would. I don't think they would appreciate it nearly as much as I do. I care about the sound, and when I'm driving a long way, I want it to be the best that it can be, and it is. It's incredible. Even Bianca is kind of jealous now because she wants the same thing in her Wrangler diesel. I told her, well, I've got a lot of other stuff I got to do first. So total time, I would say that if you were going to install this start to finish with no experience, set aside an entire day. It's going to take you a day to read the instructions, get it through it, at least a day. But that's not because it's difficult. It's just because you want to do things right. Here's the best part of the system, the very best part. I installed a 1200 watt, 8 speaker system in my Jeep, and I did not cut a single wire, not one single wire. I saved the speakers. If I ever sell Scout, my Gladiator, I am confident that I could get the speakers put back in and the entire system removed in probably about 3 to 4 hours. Now that I've gone through removing the dash completely and I know where everything is because of the install, I'm really confident that if I had to do it again, I could do it in 3 to 4 hours. Maybe a little bit longer if it was a new install, but definitely putting the old speakers back in and taking these out, no problem at all. Another big bonus of doing this is now I have no issue with taking the dash apart. I know where everything is. I know where everything is situated. If I want to install something else, I know that I won't hesitate to take it apart, and I'll know how it's supposed to go back together. By the way, the little storage bin was genius. If I pat myself on the back, whatever. It really helped to keep me organized, and it made sure, again, that I didn't end up with a handful of screws at the end. The only real con I can come up with this system is the cost. It's pricey, that's for sure. If you're going to do it the way I did, it comes right out about $2,200 for the amps, the speakers, everything. A little bit extra sound deadening as well, all of that kind of stuff. So it is a little bit pricey, but I look at it like this. I have spent so much money on my Jeep and other accessories that I use almost never. My winch was $1,000. I've used it one time. Of course, it would be really important if I needed it to get free or something like that, so I'm glad I have it. But you know, my tires were $3,000. My lift was $2,000. The rack on the back, the canopy, was $4,000, and they're great and they're here, but I very seldom do I use them every single day. The Stage 6 system, since I've put it in, I've used it every single day that I drive, and it is really awesome. Now, a lot of people will say, yeah, but you know, I've got the Alpine system and it's fantastic. I thought it was really good too, and it is good, but you never know how good until you get something a lot better. And I got to tell you, the Stage 6 system is that much better. It was worth every penny. I personally listen to music all the time. We go to Utah, we go to Arizona, we go all over the place looking for these trails. So there are times when I drive 3-4 hours, and to have the sound be the way that it is now is fantastic. It's just a pleasure. It's unbelievable the difference that the system has made. In the past, I would turn the volume all the way up, completely, 100%, which goes to like 37 for some reason in here. I don't know why. But it wasn't really that loud. I have not turned this system up all the way since I've put it in. I just haven't. I can't. It's too loud, which is nice. That means I've got plenty of headroom, what they call headroom. I don't even get to the point where the amps distort. I don't even get there because it's so loud. I don't need any more power. And that's the way that a good stereo system should be. As far as the space underneath the back seat, when I first thought about putting the subs in, I really didn't want to get rid of that space. But I'm going to tell you, I don't miss that storage space at all, not one bit. In fact, I'm glad I did it because all the stuff that used to be under the seat, which wasn't a lot, it was my compressor, the hoses for the compressor, a couple other small things, all of my towing gear, stuff like that. I get to it much easier now that it's in the back. I installed a swing carrier in the back of the Jeep, and I can get to everything so much easier, especially my pump. It's so much easier to grab. When it was under the seat, I always had the kids sitting on top of it, or a bunch of junk, or a bunch of stuff that we were taking to use while we were camping. So to get to the stuff, I always had to unload everything, and it was a nightmare. I didn't get to use the storage nearly the way that I'm using it now, and the subs sound incredible. Those two 8-inch subs really kick out a lot of bass. I'm really surprised because I thought 2 8s would sound good. I didn't realize how good they would sound. One thing I forgot to mention, with the pack audio, everything works. All of my sounds and things, all the stuff, the pack audio interfaces the system great. It worked really well. Also, I don't use the pack audio adjustment knob. I don't know why anybody would want to turn the bass down. I put it over on this side because I didn't want my wife or anybody else messing with it, and I didn't want it in the middle of the console because I put too much crap there all the time and I didn't want to break the knob. So I installed it on that side, and in fact, I realized pretty quickly I wasn't going to use it, so I put it on that side, but I didn't drill a hole or anything else like that. I'm just going to remove the switch from the wire and store it somewhere because I'm not going to use it. Why would you turn the bass down? You just put in these dual 8-inch subwoofers. I don't know why you would turn the bass down. I'm sure lots of you have comments. Please leave them below. I will respond to everyone. You can tell me what a ridiculously stupid job I did on the install. You can tell me what a great job I did on the install. If you have questions and you are going to install it, I ran over 4 hours of video. If you have a question about doing the install, hit me up. I'll be happy to give you every bit of information that I can, as well as pictures and whatever else that I can supply for you. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm going to try to get some more videos out more frequently, one a week. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate your support.